I have a twin sister named Callie. We've always been close, so close, in fact, that people still confuse us all the time. It used to annoy us as kids, but as adults, it turned into a kind of inside joke. That was, until a week ago, when Callie asked me to do something we hadn't done since high school, switch places. It started off as something harmless. She had this big networking event for work and was totally burned out. She said all she had to do was make an appearance, smile, and shake hands. Meanwhile, I could use the free time to crash at her luxury apartment, enjoy the catered meals, and hang out with her boyfriend, Evan, just casually, of course, since he'd be out of town for a few days. I wasn't wild about the idea, but Callie has this way of making things sound fun and simple. I gave in. The first few days were smooth. Her coworkers couldn't tell the difference. I faked my way through a couple of team meetings by nodding and typing gibberish on her laptop. Her apartment was amazing. I even found her hidden stash of luxury chocolates, classic Callie. But on the 5th day, things got weird. I woke up to a dozen missed calls from Evan. He was supposed to be away on business, but suddenly he was back and asking where Callie was. I told him I was at the apartment, where else would I be? His tone shifted immediately. He sounded panicked. Then he hung up. A few minutes later, someone knocked at the door. Not Evan. 2 men in suits. They asked for Callie by name, and when I said, "That's me," they exchanged a look that made my stomach flip. They didn't believe me. I don't know how to explain it, but I could tell they were expecting someone different. Someone who wouldn't be so surprised. And that's when I realized something was wrong. I haven't heard from Callie since we swapped. No calls. No texts. Nothing. She vanished. And now, people are treating me like I'm her. Like I'm supposed to know things I don't. I checked her phone, no recent messages. Her laptop history? Cleared. I even called our parents, but they were weird on the phone. Said I sounded off and hung up quickly. I'm scared. I think something happened to her. But here's the kicker. Last night, I found a note tucked behind one of the kitchen drawers. 5 words. Written in her handwriting. If you're reading this, run. I sat there for what felt like an hour just staring at the note. If you're reading this, run. No explanation. No context. Just those 5 words written in her favorite purple gel pen, with her distinct slanted handwriting. At first, I thought it had to be a prank, some dramatic little sister moment. But the look in those men's eyes earlier, the panicked tone in Evan's voice, the eerie silence from her phone and laptop, none of it felt like a joke. I didn't run. I should have, maybe. Instead, I stayed up all night searching her apartment for any clue about what she might have gotten herself into. And the deeper I dug, the worse it got. Behind her bookshelf, taped to the back of a drawer, I found a flash drive. I opened it on her laptop, hoping it might give me something, anything. What I found was a folder titled "For Lena." My name. Inside were video clips. Dozens of them. Short, shaky recordings of conversations Callie had secretly filmed. I didn't recognize most of the people, but a few things stood out. There were talks about money, large transfers, and references to something called Tier 5. One video had her whispering into the camera, "If they find out I know, it's over." I paused every 5 seconds, trying to process it all. My sister, my funny, carefree, impulsive sister, had been spying on someone. Or maybe a group. And from the clips, it sounded like she'd been in over her head for a while. One of the last clips showed her sitting at a cafe, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but her part was enough to chill me. She said, "I switched places with Lena. If anything happens to me, she'll be safe. They won't touch her if they think she's me." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest, so that's why she'd pushed so hard for the switch. It wasn't about burnout or wanting to avoid a work event. It was a cover. She used me as a shield. And now I was tangled up in something I didn't understand. The next morning, I tried to call the police. I started dialing, then I stopped. What would I even say? "Hi, I think my twin sister got involved in something shady, and now I'm pretending to be her while she's missing?" Before I could decide what to do, there was another knock at the door. Only this time, they didn't wait for me to answer. The door opened. 2 more strangers walked in like they owned the place. And one of them looked me right in the eye and said, "You've been very busy, Callie." They didn't know I wasn't her. And I had no idea what they wanted from me. I froze. I didn't even breathe. The taller man stepped closer like he was expecting me to say something, and the only thing I could think was, "Don't mess this up." If they believed I was Callie, I had to keep it that way, at least until I understood what they wanted. He tossed something on the table. A plain manila envelope. "Time sensitive," he said. Then he looked around the apartment like he owned it. His partner never said a word, just stood near the door with this military straight posture, scanning the room. I nodded, trying to look as casual as possible. "Thanks," I said, my voice barely holding steady. "I'll take care of it." They didn't stay long. Less than a minute later, they were gone, and I was left alone with the envelope. I didn't touch it for a while. I just stared at it, like it might explode. When I finally got the courage to open it, I was hit with another wave of dread. Inside was a burner phone, a one-way bus ticket to some tiny town I'd never heard of, and a folded piece of paper with a list of names. No message. No instructions. Just that. I didn't recognize a single name on the list, except one. Evan. My stomach dropped. I called him using the burner, not sure if it would even work. He picked up on the first ring, sounding startled. "You shouldn't be calling from that number," he said, his voice sharp and panicked. "Where are you?" "I'm still at the apartment," I whispered. "Evan, what's going on?" Silence. Then he said, "Lena?" I didn't answer. I knew it. Jesus, where's Callie? That's when I knew for sure. He was in on it. Not just a boyfriend who got dragged into something, he was part of it. And Callie never trusted him. Before I could hang up, he said one last thing that sent a chill through my spine. "Listen carefully. They're not after her. They're after you." I dropped the phone. It clattered across the floor. What did that even mean? I was just the sister. The stand-in. This wasn't my life, my mess, my enemies. But somehow, it was now. And Callie had known it all along. For the next few hours, I didn't move. Not even to breathe properly. I sat on the edge of the couch, knees pulled up, eyes locked on the burner phone like it might ring again and deliver the answer to everything. But it never did. I thought back to the last real conversation I had with Callie. It was 5 days ago, right before we switched. She had hugged me longer than usual. She'd made a weird comment, something like, "Don't answer any calls unless you know the number. And if someone asks for me, lie." I had laughed, thought she was being dramatic. Now it didn't feel dramatic at all. It felt like a warning. And now Evan had just confirmed it. "They're not after her, they're after you." I didn't understand. Why me? Callie's always been the wild card, the one who cuts corners, sweet-talks her way out of tickets, gets into rooms she doesn't belong in and somehow never gets caught. I'm the opposite. I play by the rules. I don't do shady. But maybe that's why she picked me. Maybe she knew I'd follow the rules long enough for her to disappear safely. And then there was the envelope. That stupid manila envelope with the burner phone, the ticket, the list. A one-way ticket. That alone made my skin crawl. Whatever this was, it wasn't meant to end here in the city. Someone wanted Callie to disappear. Quietly. I took another look at the names. They were typed. 10 names. First and last. One of them underlined. Evans. I thought about all the clips on the flash drive. The video of Callie saying, "If they find out I know," the whispered conversations about Tier 5. At first, it had sounded like corporate fraud or embezzlement or something white-collar. But a hit list? A bus ticket to a no-name town? This wasn't white-collar. This was something else entirely. I did the only thing I could think of. I packed a bag. Not much, just a few clothes, some cash I found in Callie's emergency drawer, and the flash drive. I was ready to disappear. But just as I was about to leave, I heard it. A knock. Not a knock like before. This one was fast. Urgent. 4 taps, pause, then 2 more. It was the rhythm we used as kids to sneak into each other's rooms without getting caught. I froze. Then I opened the door. And there she was, Callie. But she looked nothing like herself. Her usually sleek hair was tied in a frizzy knot, her clothes were baggy and wrinkled, and her eyes, they were wide with fear. She pushed past me without a word, locked the door, and turned around. "I messed up," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't think they'd come for you." And for the first time in my life, I saw my sister truly terrified. I stood there in complete silence, staring at her like I was seeing a ghost. My twin, my reflection, now a wreck. Disheveled, shaking, out of breath. But alive. I wanted to scream, cry, hug her, shake her. I didn't know which urge to act on first. She didn't give me the chance. Callie rushed over to the window, yanked the blinds down, and double-checked the locks like she expected someone to burst through at any moment. Then she turned to me and said, "We don't have much time." I demanded answers, and she finally gave me some. She told me she'd gotten involved with a private security firm last year through a guy she met at a corporate party, someone slick, powerful, well-connected. They called themselves Tier 5. It sounded official. Government adjacent, even. But it wasn't. Not really. They dealt in secrets. Not just corporate espionage, but something bigger: data laundering, offshore movements, illegal surveillance contracts. When she realized what she was part of, it was too late. She tried to back out, but they had leverage. Financial records, voice clips, surveillance of her and me. That's when she made her plan. Switch places with me. Disappear. Use my identity as a shield while she gathered evidence and figured out how to blow the lid off everything. She'd planned it out weeks in advance: the flash drive, the list, the envelope. Everything. She just didn't count on how fast they'd act. They weren't supposed to come for you, she said, pacing the floor. They were just supposed to think I was you long enough for me to make the drop. But someone figured it out. She paused. Evan. I couldn't breathe. I'd known it, felt it. But hearing it confirmed was still like a knife in the chest. He was working with them the whole time, she said. He's not some clueless boyfriend. He's their inside guy. The one who vets people, tests their loyalty, finds weaknesses. He picked me because I was easy to manipulate. But then he saw you. I looked at her, confused. What do you mean? She hesitated. He started asking questions. Wanted to meet you again. See how much you knew. When you didn't recognize him during the swap, that's when he got suspicious. And then, he told them. Callie pulled a folded paper from her jacket. It was a map, marked with a red circle: our childhood summer cabin, deep in the woods. This is where we go next. It's where I left the rest of the evidence. I asked her what kind of evidence. She looked me dead in the eye and said, enough to take down Tier 5, Evan, and anyone who's ever touched this operation. I didn't want to go. Every instinct in me screamed to run in the opposite direction. But I saw it in her face: this wasn't about her anymore. I was already a part of it, whether I liked it or not. We had one night to get to the cabin before they realized she was back. So we packed up, shut off our phones, and left everything behind. Except the flash drive. And the map. It was a 3-hour drive into nowhere. And by the time we got to the edge of the woods, someone was already waiting. The cabin wasn't visible from the road, just a narrow dirt path lined with trees that hadn't been cleared in years. We parked a half-mile out and hiked the rest on foot, ducking under branches, stepping over roots. Every crack of a twig made me flinch. Callie led the way like she knew the place by heart. I guess she did. We were almost there when I saw it: a black SUV, parked just off the trail, partially hidden under a mesh camouflage net. Someone was already here. Callie dropped low, motioned for me to follow. We crept through the trees, sticking to the shadows. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was inside could hear it. We made it to the back of the cabin. The back door was slightly ajar, the curtain swaying with the breeze. No sounds. No movement. Callie pulled a small knife from her boot. When did she even start carrying that? And pushed the door open slowly. We stepped inside. The place looked untouched at first. Dust on the shelves, cobwebs in the corners, old furniture still draped in white sheets. But on the floor, there were muddy footprints. Fresh ones. Leading toward the trapdoor in the kitchen. We stood frozen, eyes locked. That trapdoor led to the cellar. Callie whispered, "They're here for the case file." Apparently, there wasn't just digital evidence. Callie had printed documents, originals from some internal database she'd managed to access months ago. She'd hidden them in a metal lockbox, buried in the dirt beneath the cellar floor. She told me the files connected Tier 5 to illegal surveillance ops in multiple countries, proof that they were selling data to the highest bidder, hacking private citizens, even blackmailing politicians. She'd made copies, but the originals were the smoking gun. And she left them here, thinking no one would find this place. We didn't speak again. She motioned to the kitchen, then pointed to herself. She'd go down. I'd stay at the top and keep watch. I wanted to argue, beg her to let me go instead, but there wasn't time. Callie slipped into the cellar without a sound, leaving me alone in the quiet. I crept to the front of the cabin and peeked through the blinds. That's when I saw the second SUV pulling up. Not black this time, silver. Tinted windows. And from the driver's side, Evan stepped out. My stomach flipped. He wasn't alone. 3 more men got out. All dressed in black. No insignias. No words. They moved like they'd done this before. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a rusted crowbar from the fireplace, and ducked behind the old couch. Then I heard it. The front door creaking open. And Evan's voice, low and calm. "Callie. Lena. It's over." He was wrong. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The front door slammed shut, echoing through the cabin like a warning shot. I pressed myself tighter behind the couch, gripping the crowbar until my knuckles ached. I could hear their boots scraping across the hardwood floor. Calm, deliberate. Like they knew exactly where to go. Evan's voice cut through the silence again, closer this time. You've got one chance. Come out, Callie. Or Lena. Whichever one you are now. He was mocking us. He thought he had the upper hand. Maybe he did. I knew Callie was still in the cellar, completely unaware that they'd arrived. If they found the trapdoor, she'd be cornered. And if they found me first? I wasn't ready to find out what they'd do. I crawled along the side of the couch and slipped into the hallway. Every step felt like walking a tightrope above a minefield. I made it to the bathroom and locked the door behind me, hoping to buy a few seconds to think. Then I remembered something from when we were kids. Callie and I had a system in this cabin. 2 knocks on the floor meant danger. 3 meant all clear. I knelt, hard hammering, and rapped my knuckles twice on the old wood. A pause. Then 3 faint knocks from beneath the floorboards. Relief nearly dropped me. She knew. Now I just had to stall. I opened the bathroom window and pushed the screen out. It fell into the bushes outside with a soft rustle. Then I crawled halfway out and slammed the door behind me before ducking into the tub. I heard them moments later, rushing down the hall. A voice barked, "She's running," followed by pounding footsteps and the crunch of boots leaping through the bushes. All 4 of them were gone in seconds. That was our opening. I bolted back to the kitchen, yanked open the trapdoor, and whispered loudly into the darkness, "Now." Callie scrambled up, holding a metal lockbox covered in dirt. Her face was slick with sweat and streaked with dust, but her eyes were on fire. "We have to move," she said. "Once they realize you tricked them, they'll circle back." We didn't bother with the path. We took the back way, through thorns and dense underbrush, breaking twigs and tearing sleeves, not caring about noise anymore. Our only goal was distance. By the time we made it back to the car, my lungs were on fire. We threw the lockbox in the back seat and sped off. 20 minutes later, Callie pulled over beside an abandoned gas station. She reached into the lockbox and pulled out a thick folder. Inside were photographs, account statements, transcripts, names I recognized from politics and corporate boards. And right there, on the first page, a blurry image of Evan. Callie handed it to me. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said. "We're exposing them." I looked at her. At the evidence. At the empty road stretching ahead of us. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I wasn't scared. I was ready. We drove through the night, windows down, cold air slicing through the silence as if it could cut the tension sitting thick between us. Callie was focused, her hands steady on the wheel. I kept flipping through the folder, absorbing details that didn't seem real, emails between executives talking about surveillance blackmail like it was just another Tuesday. Maps with red dots. Names. So many names. Every one of them was a thread. Together, they made a web so massive I couldn't see the edges. Tier 5 wasn't a company. It was a machine. And Evan? He wasn't just a cog. He was a gatekeeper. Callie's plan was reckless, dangerous, but it was the only one we had. She had a contact, a former journalist named Marla. Years ago, Marla had tried to take down a tech giant for illegal data tracking. Her career was destroyed for it. But Callie said Marla never stopped digging, she just went underground. We were headed to her now. The rendezvous was a rundown RV parked behind an abandoned motel in a ghost town called Hargrave. Middle of nowhere. Perfect place to disappear, or blow something wide open. Marla was already waiting when we arrived. Sharp eyes, gray braid, camouflage jacket. She didn't ask many questions. Just lit a cigarette and took the folder without a word, flipping through it slowly, lips pursed in concentration. When she looked up, she didn't say "This is huge." She didn't even say "I believe you." She just asked, "How many people know you're alive?" Callie shook her head. "Not enough." Marla nodded like that was the right answer. Then she reached behind a cabinet and pulled out an old satellite phone. "This doesn't trace. I'll call someone I trust. Someone who'll make sure this doesn't get buried." We stayed the night in the RV, took shifts sleeping. I laid awake during mine, staring at the ceiling, wondering how this all started. When did Callie stop trusting me enough to tell me the truth? When did she become someone who'd risk everything for a cause bigger than herself? And then I wondered something even worse, if she hadn't come back, would I have survived pretending to be her? At 5 a.m., Marla came back from her call. "They're in," she said. "They'll publish the documents. But you've got to disappear." I asked what that meant. "New identities," she said, lighting another cigarette. "New lives." Callie didn't flinch. We're ready. I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. By 6 a.m., Tier 5 secrets were being decrypted in some unknown newsroom bunker. By 7 a.m., Evan was likely realizing he'd lost control. And by 8 a.m., our faces were on fake IDs, and our car was burning in a ditch 2 counties over. There was no turning back now. The drive from Hargrave to the drop site was 4 hours of back roads and silence. Marla gave us one last meal, a bag of stale crackers, bottled water, and a thermos of what she called goodbye coffee. Then she disappeared like she'd never existed, taking with her the only copies of our real identities. We were no longer Lena and Callie. Our new names were stitched into fresh IDs, our faces altered just enough by haircuts and color to make a difference. Callie was now Jamie, and I was Leah. It felt surreal, like I was playing a character in someone else's movie. But there was no script, just survival. We left Hargrave in a different car, one Marla had arranged through some connection that probably didn't exist on paper. It was old, unremarkable, and registered to a fake name with no history. The plan was simple: get to the next contact, a woman named Ruth in Santa Fe. She'd help us get across the border, into Canada if things went south fast. By then, the exposé would be public, and Tier 5 would either implode, or come after us harder than ever. About an hour into the drive, the first notification came through. We had purchased a prepaid phone, meant only for updates from Marla's team. One ping. No text, just a link. Callie tapped it. It was the article. Tier 5 exposed, shadow network behind political blackmail and global data crimes uncovered. Callie's hands trembled as she scrolled. I read over her shoulder. Everything was there. The money trails, the whistleblower reports, the audio clips, even the footage from her flash drive. They'd redacted names of victims, but left every executive, every operative, and every government stooge fully named, including Evan. His picture stared back at us, printed in black and white under the headline, "Key Facilitator in Global Surveillance Ring." It was surreal to see it laid bare, after days of hiding, of running, of doubting our own reality. Callie started laughing. Not the good kind. The hollow kind. The kind you hear at the edge of a breakdown. "He's going to run," she whispered. "He'll never face trial." I didn't respond. Because she was probably right. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 20 minutes later. Another ping. This time, it was a screenshot. A post on a dark web forum. No names. Just a bounty. $500,000 for the location of the sisters. They didn't even need to know our names. They just wanted our faces. $500,000. That was the number printed in bold under our photo, an older one, maybe from a friend's social media post years ago. We were smiling, arms slung around each other at some party neither of us remembered. Someone had blurred the background but kept our faces crystal clear. The post was anonymous. The replies weren't. Coordinates. Speculations. Conspiracy theories. Dozens of people offering to help locate us, most just chasing shadows. But a few? Too close for comfort. One had posted a rough map of southern New Mexico. We were on that map. Callie didn't say a word. She just turned off the phone and threw it out the window. We didn't talk the rest of the way to Santa Fe. Ruth turned out to be in her 60s, sharp as a blade, and prepared. She didn't ask questions. Just handed us burner passports, cash in Canadian dollars, and 2 train tickets out of El Paso. No flights. Too risky. We were supposed to leave that night. But something changed. Callie disappeared again. Not like last time, this time, she left a note. Folded, simple, left on my bed at the safe house. "Leah, Yuri free. They'll think we're together, but I'm going another way. I need to finish this. They'll keep coming unless someone stops them. You still have a life ahead of you. Go live it. Don't look for me. Jamie." I read it a dozen times before I moved. I didn't cry. Not then. I was too numb. Too tired. I followed the plan. I got on that train. I crossed the border. I started over. New name. New country. New identity. But I still dream about her. I see her in crowds sometimes, same walk, same laugh, same spark in the eyes, and my heart stumbles. But it's never her. Sometimes, I wonder if she's dead. Sometimes, I wonder if she's the one posting those leaks under that anonymous whistleblower blog that's taken the internet by storm. Other times, I wonder if she's watching me. Protecting me, from afar. All I know is this. They wanted to erase us. But we survived. We exposed the rot. And somewhere out there, Callie, my sister, my other half, is still fighting. Maybe one day, she'll come home. Until then, I keep my suitcase packed, just in case I have to disappear again.